Good evening and welcome to the October 24th meeting of the Board of School Trustees for Fort Wayne Community Schools. We will begin our meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And our roll call of members.
Good evening, Steve Corona from the 5th District.
Julie Hollingsworth, District 1.
Jennifer Mathias, District 2.
Maria Norman, Member at Large.
Riley Booker, District 4.
Noah Smith, District 3.
And I'm Ann Duff, Member at Large. And to my left is Angela Filler, Clerk of the Board, and our Superintendent, Dr. Daniel. We will begin with our Principal for a Day video. Several of us were principals for a day. I believe that was last week. So we welcome 54 community members into our schools to serve as guest principals for the annual Principal for a Day event on Thursday, October 13th. Guests representing local businesses, churches, service organizations, real estate agencies, and community groups visited their assigned schools for the morning, followed by a lunch at the Wendy Y. Robinson Family and Community Engagement Center, prepared and served by our FWCS Career Academy Culinary Arts students. And we will watch the video now highlighting that event. All right, thank you for that video. I believe we will go on to our consent agenda, which includes our approval of minutes from our October 10th meeting, vouchers and payroll, and our personnel report. Is there a motion on the floor for approval?
So motion.
Second.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Steve. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And is there anything that you would like to speak about on the personnel report, Dr. Daniel?
Nothing at this time, thank you.
Okay. Then we shall move on to our new business. And I believe the first thing is our EARN grant. It is recommended that the board approve the acceptance of the EARN grant for 2022-23 in the amount of $25,000 to the Career Academy from the Indiana Department of Education and Indiana Work and Learn. The funds in this year's EARN grant are designated for reimbursement to local employers who take Career Academy students on as interns. Employers who hire economically disadvantaged CTE students as interns will receive up to $1,500 reimbursement for both first and second semesters with a total of $3,000 per student. We also have a $25,000 to spend on supplies, uniforms, and transportation expenses for students with a need. This is a non-competitive grant which supports services for career and technical education students. FWCS is the fiscal agent for these funds, and there is no requirement to match the grant with local funds. The grant is written by Jesse Webb, Director of the Career and Technical Education Area 14, along with Sandra Adams, Assistant Director of the Career and Technical Education Area 14. Mrs. Adams is available to answer questions. Is there a motion on the floor for approval?
Move for approval.
Second.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you, Raleigh. And any questions for Sandra?
Is this the first time we're going for this grant?
Yeah, we were contacted by the Work and Learn as one of the largest CTE districts in Indiana, or the largest CTE district in Indiana. They wanted us to be a part of the pilot, so we wrote the application, and we have, it's a little confusing. What the premise is that we have 50 students that we can qualify to work for local companies. It's for high-value CTE programs, and so that means health careers, construction trades, welding, manufacturing, automotive. Right now, Kelly is our number one. We have 8 students starting there Thursday. They have their orientation, and we have already 6 students there. So of those 14, 9 of them qualify to get the reimbursement. And so starting in December then, Taylor Straub, their HR director, and I have been working to make sure then that the kids all have applications online, and it all happens via the platform for Work and Learn. And it's something that the colleges have done for a long time, and they're piloting it to see if we can get more equity with internships, because I'm sure you all know the number one reason internships don't happen is transportation. And so we're working with them. They're trying to kind of work out the kinks together with us. They had a few stipulations on the transportation, and we're trying to explain to them that, you know, getting money for Uber cards and things would be a more viable way to use that money so that we can teach students how to get to their jobs, and rather than, you know, paying for somebody to drive a special purpose bus is what they had in mind. So we're just working that out. But no, there's about 7 companies already that are working towards it.
So I want to make sure I understand this, what this money is. You're going to pay for transportation for students, whether it's through
So the $25,000 is for transportation, or we can buy welding students helmets if they get placed somewhere and they don't have a helmet or something like that.
uniforms?
Yes, uniforms if it's a situation that they need, like a flame retardant jacket or something along
Okay.
those lines.
All right.
But the other money doesn't come to us. We're just the provider of the students, but the money bypasses us and goes right to the employer.
Okay.
But the student has to apply?
Yes, and it's the same as all internships.
Okay.
Yeah, any internship, students go through an interview process. They have to
Right.
do an application. This time, it's just online, and yeah, we're really hopeful. We're trying to convince them that early childhood is deserving, even though they don't qualify as a high value. There's such a high demand. And we said that, you know, they are the ones who would really be thrilled at the reimbursement. So that is in progress right now. We're
So
not the
the-
only district.
The money doesn't go towards paying the students a salary at their internship. It is only for supplies and transportation and that type of thing. Is that correct?
No, the money is, so Kelly will apply for $1,500 in December for every student they have that qualifies. And then that money goes straight to Kelly. And the hope is then that they will take interns who are doing a really good job and increase their salary. We've seen that at Parish
they-
Leasing.
Okay,
They've already.
So they do get paid.
Yeah, they do, yeah. At Parish Leasing, the students are making $14 an hour. So
Well,
it's really good.
You
So-
mentioned that Kelly was one of the number one employers. What are some of the other partnerships we have?
So Ottenweller is another really leading company. They take a lot of our welding students. And then Parish Leasing, and we have, we're working with Shambaugh & Sons. We have some 17-year-old, 18-year-old guidelines, but we're working on the welding. Quick Cut is another one.
So just to be clear, I'm sorry, we're getting a $25,000 grant for transportation, but over and above that, it mentions the reimbursement, which you just mentioned too, and we'll use Kelly for example. They'll apply to the state for $1,500 per semester, which they can then receive and then in turn pay the student.
Yes, and so $3,000
Do they
max
have to
per
pay the
student.
students, or that's an option?
Yeah, they have to with the earn grant.
Okay.
Yeah, all the students are earning a good income. They're all doing well.
How many
Well,
students overall do we have?
We
In
can
internship
place
from the
50,
Okay,
but right now we're at 14.
okay.
But part of the difficulty is with the whole COVID crisis and qualifying every student as free and reduced. That's the criteria, so it's been a little tricky to go back and figure out who really is free and reduced and meets that criteria, so they're helping us with that. It's definitely, there's been some wrinkles, but it has a lot of potential.
How many kids do we have at Antis in general?
The Career Academy has 938 kids this year.
So this will be 50 of those 900?
Yes.
Is there anything we can do to help try and encourage the funding for the early childhood?
Well, that is an ongoing conversation. We've created a directors forum, and Ivy Tech has hired a liaison to connect all of the early childhood in Allen County, and we're trying to just make a real concerted front. So we've sent them all of the data on why they should qualify that, and I'm waiting. I know that there were a few other districts that agreed that it should be included, and so I will definitely reach out to the school board for help when I find out what their stance is.
Let us know.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
Are
Thank
there
you.
any programs that you would like to expand or could expand if you had more resources, including space?
Julie, do you really want to do this? Yeah. Yeah, so next year we are doubling HVAC by adding the pipe fitting. And so if you have time and you want to cough for 2 days, I highly recommend a tour of the construction lab. The guys just redid this is just guys, I'm not stereotyping, the masonry is all boys in the morning, and they refurbished all of the cement floors in there. But that's going to have even a really nice professional development room, and so we will be able to separate HVAC and sheet metal from pipe fitting, and so we'll double the enrollment, and we have wait list on that. So yeah, like last year, 2 years ago, we doubled welding, and we still have a wait list in welding.
Wow.
Yeah. So.
What else, are those the only two programs that have a wait list?
Oh, no,
A lot
dental,
of them? Oh,
yeah,
wow.
CST. Our CST program is the first time that we've partnered with St. Francis as a dual credit provider, and we're piloting a year 2. So those would be students who will, when they get their credential and their certification, what they actually earn is the right to sit for the test, because they are, CST stands for Central Service Tech, which
Thank
is
you. I was
really
just gonna ask.
deceiving. What it means is you are qualified to sterilize the surgical room before surgery. So it's a really intense program, and St. Francis has just been amazing as partners. So, and those students would qualify for the EARN grant too.
Gotcha.
See how I took us right back to the EARN grant?
Interesting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. It is now recommended that the board approve the sponsorship and name agreement with the Serac Family Foundation in preparation for the opening of the Amp Lab Electric Works. Fort Wayne Community Schools began soliciting the sponsorship of local companies in exchange for exclusive naming rights to one of 4 educational studios. This agreement is the second offering of naming rights to a commercial entity in the history of the district. Under the terms of the agreement, the Create Studio will be named the Serac Family Foundation Create Studio for 5 years in exchange for financial sponsorship of $625,000. Mitch Shepard, Director of Philanthropy, and Riley Johnson, Director of Amp Lab Electric Works, will be available to speak. Is there a motion on the floor for approval?
Move we approve.
Thank you, Noah.
Second.
Thank you, Maria. And do you have any questions?
What does this look like for the Serac Family Foundation? Big signs? split across the Create Studio?
As with our prior sponsorship, there is a promotional package that is involved with this. This is a little bit different from a traditional donation or a grant, wherein you are told exactly what you're allowed to spend the money for. They are actually providing funding because they are so pleased with the work that we're doing. They want their name associated with it. However, the Surek Family Foundation is taking a slightly low-key approach on this. So while they have the entire menu of available options, we just check with them each time and ask them if they wish to have their logo or their recognition included in each of those items.
You got a place to spend all this money, Riley?
You want my real answer? No. I would say, I think for us, it's just validating that, what is it, day 50 of existence. And I think we're blessed that as we've seen, I think we counted last week, we've had 325 community members in the building in those first 50 days. And so I think this just is a continued testament that the community believes in, Dr. Daniel will laugh at me, but something that truly does blow up the box of education. And so I think with that, I think as the program continues to grow, we'll see new opportunities come with it as well.
So, whoa. 50 days in, tell us about it.
Yeah, I would be lying if I didn't say every day is a new day. But I think that speaks to the blessing of the ambiguity is we believe students have really bought what we were trying to sell. And what I mean by that is they own it. And it really is something where, a kid has a bad day and the question back to them is like, well, what do you want tomorrow to look like so it's better? And we've felt really, really empowered to see them identify problems that matter to them, whether, in Challenge 1, it was really community oriented. Challenge 2 is really venture oriented, but they're the driver of it. And then I think, I laugh that the thing that I think comes back to me a lot is like, how are you going to measure? How are you going to measure? And in year 1, we really talked a lot about like measuring the smile. And so we've done essentially a culture temperature check about every 10 to 12 days where we ask the students the same questions. And this time of year is rough for everybody. And one of our questions is really about do they feel like they have ownership of AMP Lab? And we've averaged right in that 88% feel 5 of 5 or 4 of 5 since day 1. And I think that speaks to the testament that like they feel like they've found a place that they can challenge themselves, but also pursue the things that they think will help them in whatever that path is, once they leave us.
As the only one as a parent here, I can attest, and I appreciate the job that Riley and his team does. My daughter's a senior, and sad to say, but she's more engaged in her education this year than she has been in prior 3. She's always got pretty good grades, but she's more engaged this year than prior, and I attribute that to AMP Lab and Riley's team. So thank you.
I also was able to, I work with a young lady who's a senior as well that I've known for the last 4 years by helping her coach a team, but she was first involved with AMP Lab, and at the first she was like, I'm not quite sure, I don't know that I fit in, I am very regimented, it's not regimented. So I challenged her to talk to her support staff and her team and everything else, and I'm sure that there's a place for her, just like there is in the real world for all of us who work on different levels. And I think you're doing a fabulous job, because about 6 weeks after school started, she came back to say, I found where I fit there, and that she was very happy with her experience that she's getting there, and I've seen her develop into an entirely different person. I think they had a project that was due and some presenting to do, and she's like, oh my gosh, I got to go home because we just changed this yesterday and they didn't tell me that I had this. I said, yeah, that's what happens every day in the real world to most people, and you have to learn how to adapt. And she was, I saw her at a totally different level than where she started. So I have to say that I've been impressed with the outcomes that I've heard from the students. So that's a tribute to you and what's going on there. So thank you.
Thanks. I think the thing I will add to that, probably 2.5 weeks ago, we had a little like kumbayas and adult staff reminding ourselves that like literally since day one, we've been asking these kids to do something new every day. And we had to do that reminder where like, okay, half of them are seniors. And now we are literally a quarter of the way through their senior year. And just that kind of like walking with grace and empathy with them has been, I think, the blessing of where we were able to take that kind of breath of fresh air and say, you know what, they are exceeding our expectations, and we just need to continue to, first challenge them, but also, walk beside them and make sure that they see the opportunities they have as valuable.
It's obviously the teachers are buying in, the students are buying in now, and the community is buying in, and it shows with this support from the Serac family for their great sponsorship. So we greatly appreciate their donation, and looking forward to see what great things are going to continue to happen at AMP Lab, and as it expands and as more businesses come in and you can work right there with them on your campus. So looking forward to that.
That's the last thing. So the buzz right now is, when is Conjure Coffee opening, and what does it look like for us to be able to walk over and get a coffee? So we're having that conversation about what appropriate etiquette on your coffee behavior looks like as a 17-year-old.
Is it November sometime, I think?
Well, I say with the asterisks always, but it is, we think in the next 2 to 3 weeks. But we say once it's open, we'll know it's open.
Thank you, Riley.
Thank you.
So Mitch, 2 down, and how many studios to go?
2 contracted, 1 with a verbal agreement in negotiation, and a 4th pitch has been made, and that will bring us all the way home if we get that.
Awesome. Appreciate your
Better call
work as well.
tonight. Operators are still on duty, right?
Thank you.
Running out of studios.
Any other comments or questions? All right.
Good job.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and moving on, Julie Adams Elementary Office Addition and Partial Renovation Project.
It's recommended that the board approve the following construction contracts for the Adams Elementary Office Addition and Partial Renovation Project. From Schinkel Construction, the base bid is $1,739,000. There's an alternate for certify frames and replace door slabs, and that's about just over $54,000. So the total contract is $1,793,650. Automated Logic has the controls bid for $42,500. So the project consists of a proposed 1,495 square foot addition to relocate the school office suite and create a secured entry. Additional renovations include relocating administrative spaces to the current office suite location, replacement of ceilings, lighting, wall protection in corridors, lighting replacement, painting in the gym, replacement of ceiling lighting and wall treatments in the cafeteria. The project was designed by Design Collaborative and will be funded from a combination of 2016 and 2020 school building projects. The existing building automation systems or controls are proprietary, and Automated Logic is a single source vendor for this work. Project specifications require the work to be complete by July 26, 2024. And Director of Facilities Darren Hess is available to answer questions. On the next page, you can see there were 4 bidders, with Schinkel Construction, Inc. being the lowest.
Thank you, Julie. Is there a motion on the floor for approval? Is that what I want to do? Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Is there a motion on the floor for approval?
So moved.
Thank you, Maria.
Second.
Thank you, Noah. And we have questions for Darren. I have a question. So currently, I think at Adams, we enter from that back parking lot Is that correct? Is that where these new offices then will be located, at that parking lot entrance?
Correct. We're basically extending that front entry south towards the parking lot about 30 feet.
Okay. Any other questions?
You had a busy night, it looks like ahead of you here, Darren. It's not to be complete till July 2024?
Correct. Originally, we wanted to be complete by the end of next summer, 2023, but that rooftop unit that we have to order right now with a notice to proceed after tonight's approval, hopefully, we're looking at anywhere from 10 to 12 months to have that received. So we had to give them extra time because we can't open the old office. Renovate the old office until we move into the new office, which will be next fall. So we had to give them till 2024.
So that's for one piece of the whole project? Does the pricing will hold through then? Basically?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, the
so
contract, they have to hold everything through July of 2024.
So the building is 98 years old. Is that a plus or minus? I mean, sometimes those older buildings are a little better built, but maybe a pain in the butt to renovate.
Yeah, they have their challenges. Anyone who wants to drill a hole through the wall, get ready to drill about a 24-inch deep hole.
Other than that,
It's not one of the favorite ones to work in. It's a difficult building, but it's stood its time. It's worthwhile keeping. That's why we're investing in it. It's a cornerstone of that neighborhood. But all those, depending on the generation of the building, they all have their own certain challenges.
Anything else? Thank you, Darren. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, moving on. Jennifer, the appointment of project architect engineers for the renovation of Black Hawk Middle School.
Sorry, my computer is not wanting to. Be nice to me. It is recommended that the board approve the appointment of a project architect engineer for the following project: renovation of Black Hawk Middle School, Elevatus Architecture, for an estimated design contract fee of $850,000, estimated construction budget of $17 million. Indiana law requires projects over $100,000 make use of a registered architect or a professional engineer for developing plans and specifications. Project architects engineers need to be appointed now to allow sufficient time for planning and bidding of the project to ensure construction starts during the spring of 2024. The project at Black Hawk Middle School will be funded from the 2020 School Building Basic Renewal Restoration and Safety Project Fund. Darren is here again to answer our questions.
Thank you, Jennifer. Is there a motion on the floor for
I move
approval?
for approval.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you, Steve.
Will this not be a CMC project then, Darren?
We have not decided whether we're going to procure with CMC or a general contract yet.
Anything else?
I guess real quick, sorry, one other. With this and Miami, as I recall, was kind of put on hold because of the escalating prices and materials and labor and all that stuff. Does this mean that those have softened or that we can move forward, or just it's time we gotta get going on these things?
There's some indicators that it's softening, yes.
Anything else? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the appointment of project architect engineers for the 2023 capital projects plan CPP at various locations. Maria.
It is recommended that the board approve the appointment of a project architect/engineer for the following 2023 CPP projects at various locations. There are 6 projects. They're all, I'm not going to read all that, but there are 6 projects. They're pretty big. Indiana law requires that projects over $100,000 make use of a registered architect or a professional engineer for developing plans and specifications. Project architects and engineers need to be appointed now to allow sufficient time for planning and bidding of the project to ensure construction starts during the summer of 2023. Projects are funded from the operations fund, which is identified in the capital projects plan, and Darren is available to answer our question.
Thank you, Maria. Is there a motion on the floor for approval?
Move we approve.
Thank you, Noah.
Second.
Thank you, Julie. Any questions for Darren?
Darren, are all these firms here in Fort Wayne?
Yes, they are.
And then, out of curiosity, since I just asked about the CMC, these are kind of rehab or remodel projects, right?
Yes, these are cyclical projects that roof replacements, door replacements that we do every year.
So I know like Blackhawk's a big remodel, but it's a big number. Wayne, I know we're doing CMC, it's a big number. Is it based on the number of the cost estimates or the type of project where we do CMC versus?
Both. A smaller project, for example, we, in one of the ESSER projects, completed an addition at the Nutrition Processing Center. I think it was $1.5 million, something like that, $1.7 million. So dollar value wasn't huge, but it was more of a specialized project, so that's why we went design build, which is kind of a CMC. And a lot of times the smaller projects, if it's a door replacement project, there's not a lot of challenges that we need that CMC to help us with about phasing and about budgets, and because it's a pretty simple project. So it depends on the simplicity of the project or the budget.
Thank you. Great answer.
All right, thank you, Darren. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, Raleigh, the contract amendment for construction manager as constructor.
It is recommended that the board approve a contract amendment with Hagerman, Inc. as part of the construction manager as constructor contract for the accessibility and security improvements at Forest Park Elementary School in conjunction with the renovations of Wayne High School and accessibility and security improvement at Washington Elementary School as last amended on September 12th of 2022. Contract award, or the amended amount is $2,025,000 for an amended contract amount of $52,055,160. The accessibility and security improvements project at Forest Elementary includes the addition of a new entrance to the office suite to facilitate ADA access and to create a secured entrance, along with the addition of limited use, limited application elevators to provide accessibility to all levels of the building and to meet the Americans with Disability Act standards. This project was included in the overall CMC contract with Hagerman, Inc. for the renovation of Wayne High School and accessibility and security improvements at Forest Park and Washington Elementary Schools. Funding will be from the 2020 School Basic Renewal Restoration and Safety Project, and Darren is still here.
Thank you, Raleigh. Is there a motion on the floor for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Julie. And any questions on this?
So Darren, as I understood what you just told Noah, for example, this project's a little bit, Forest Park has
Yes.
got its own issues, correct?
This
And
is-
harder issues
This is going to
too.
be extremely challenging, so we wanted to really know who our contractors were going to be, have them part of the design process so that we could do some investigation ahead of time, because adding 2 elevators to Forest Park and that office, if you've ever been to Forest Park, with making that ADA accessible is going to be quite the feat. So this is why a good purpose to use CMC.
Okay, so I just wanted to verify that I understood the difference between the two, and this would be a good challenge for that.
Correct.
What's the change amount for?
What's the change about?
The
for?
amended amount, $2,025,000.
Is that for Forest Park?
Yes, that's for the work at Forest Park. It's going to be amended to the overall contract that we originally have with Hagerman.
Gotcha, thank you for that explanation.
This building is laid out like Irwin?
Very similar, yes.
Yeah, except at Irwin, they go to the side door, don't they, to enter?
Correct. The
This
parking
one
lot's
is-
off the south.
Yeah,
How old's Forest Park?
I don't know.
I think it's pushing 100.
I thought you had all that.
Is that part of the question? Find out for you.
Anything else for Darren? Thank you, Darren. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Oh, aye. I'm not opposed. I'm in favor.
Okay, you're a little late. All right. contract amendment for construction manager for Arlington and Lincoln. Noah.
Recommend the board approve a third contract amendment for Michael Kinder and Sons, Inc. as part of the construction manager's contract or CMC contract for the renovations at Arlington and Lincoln Elementary Schools as last amended August 8, 2022. The minimum amount is now adding $62,983 for a total amended contract amount of $14,119,579.29. This amendment package establishes additional costs to provide a walk-in cooler in the kitchen. The amendment will be funded from the Judicial Services Fund, and Darren is here again to answer questions.
Thank you, Noah. Is there a motion on the floor for approval?
So motion.
Second.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Noah. And any questions for Darren?
So there was never a cooler in the original plan for this, a walk-in cooler, or they needed a new one? What?
So this, it didn't really fit the ESSER guidelines. So Nutrition Services had a roll-in cooler, and whenever we do a renovation, they like to have a walk-in cooler. It gives them a little more flexibility and more durable. So she's using her funds, and we're just using this as the vehicle to get the work done, this contract.
So should we not have had any ESSER funds, we would have still had a rolling cooler?
Yes.
Thank you.
And is this for both schools?
It's
The
actually only for
62,000?
Arlington. It's not for
Okay.
Lincoln and Arlington, it's just Arlington.
Okay, but the overall contract is for both?
Correct.
Gotcha. Were they built at the very same time with the very same layout? I mean, I know they were both open concept schools.
Yeah, I believe they both opened in about 1972, 73. Similar designs, but they have different additions, so now they're different buildings.
Right, right. But were they originally the same?
Yes.
Okay.
Flip-flop, they weren't.
Right.
Anything else? Thank you, Darren. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And Steve, the General Building Systems, the GBS for Northside High School bleacher replacement.
Yes. It is recommended the board approve the following construction contracts for general building systems. North Side High School bleacher replacement project. The total amount of the contract is $198,960. The project includes removal and replacement of the telescoping bleacher system on the home side of the main gym at the school. Kelly Tappy designed the project, funded from the operations fund, and identified in the capital projects plan. Recommendation is within the program budget. Project specifications require the work to be done by next summer, July 28. And you see the one bid that we received, that was the only bid that we got. Anyway, that is the recommendation before us.
Thank you, Steve. Is there a motion on the floor for approval?
I move approval.
Second.
Thank you, Rowley. Thank you, Julie. And any questions for Darren?
What is the telescoping bleacher system? Is that kind of the individualized seats they have there?
It's the whole system, the frame, the racking, the superstructure underneath it, the motors. It's the entire system. So this is in the main seating area at Northside and the Pi Gym. Would completely replace the existing system.
Is it shot? I mean, what?
We had a maintenance nightmare. Unfortunately, with new telescoping bleachers, the newer style versus the old wood style, you could expect those to last 40 years. The lifespan of new telescoping bleachers only 20 years. We've already replaced the ones at Southside a few years ago, similar situation. They just a lot of moving parts, a lot of racking around, and they don't take the beating.
So we've already done south side, and this will be north side home, or the home side, but not the visitor side?
Correct.
Well,
We're going to have to do Northside over the next 2 to 3 years to be able to do the whole thing.
Will they be just like the ones they have now?
Yes,
With backs
I
and-
believe even the same
In
colors.
some of the seats?
Yeah.
And so we have to do this at Snyder in 18 years, because they just...
Unfortunately, we need a budget for that, yeah.
So that's cyclical like the roof?
Correct. I mean, in all reality, with the high school, the new bleachers, if we get 20 years out of them, we're doing okay.
Anything else?
Assume they're motorized?
Correct.
Were the original ones, current ones motorized?
At Northside, the ones that we have?
Yeah, Northside.
Yes.
Okay.
And did we not accept the bid for the visitor side bleachers, or they did not bid on them?
They bid on, it was out of, over our budget that we had set aside out of the project for it.
How far out?
About 42,000, I believe.
Because I think it'd be more efficient to do them both at once, right? But, okay.
Anything else? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and Julie, the roof replacement and related work?
It's recommended that the board approve the following construction contracts for roof replacements and related work. From Fort Wayne Roofing and Sheet Metal at Lincoln and Washington Center for $418,400. Also Fort Wayne Roofing and Sheet Metal at Shambaugh and St. Joseph Central, $259,400. Same company, Anthos Harrison Hill in South Wayne for $596,600. So all replacements have been identified in our roof replacement plan, which provides for the replacement of all roof segments over a 25-year period. Martin Riley Architects and Engineers designed the projects. This recommendation is within the program budget. The projects are funded from a combination of the Operations Fund, the 2016 referendum and bond, and the 2019 general obligation bond. Projects funded from the Operations Fund are identified in the Capital Projects Plan. Specifications require the work to be completed by August 6, 2023. And Darren is still here.
Thank you, Julie. Is there a motion on the floor for approval?
I move for approval.
Second.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you, Steve. And questions for Darren? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and Jennifer, Whitney Young Early Childhood Office, Media Center, and Pre-K Classroom Improvements.
It is recommended that the board approve the following construction contracts for the Whitney Young Early Childhood Office, Media Center, and Pre-K Classroom Improvement Projects. Schenkel Construction with a base bid of $1,318,000. With one alternative, steam room, ceiling, and lighting for $20,800 for a total of $1,338,800, as well as automated logic for a total contract of $47,060. The project consists of renovations including relocation of the office suite and creation of a secured entrance, lighting, and ceiling replacements in 6 classroom areas, ADA upgrades to 3 existing pre-K classroom restrooms, construction of 2 new pre-K classroom restrooms, interior corridor finish improvements, and renovations to the existing media center. The project was designed by Design Collaborative and will be funded from a combination of the 2020 School Building Basic Renewal Restoration and Safety Project, STEAM Magnet Grant, and Build, Learn, Grow Grant. The existing building automation system controls are proprietary, and Automatic Logic is a single source vendor. The project specification require the work to be done by July 28, 2023. And once again, Darren has the microphone.
Thank you, Jennifer. Is there a motion on the floor? Thank you, Noah.
Second.
Thank you, Maria. And questions for Darren?
Is Automated Logic an Indiana-based company?
They are headquartered in Atlanta, Georgia, but they have a Muncie, Indiana. That's their branch for us.
Okay. I thought somewhere I heard it was Indianapolis, but wasn't sure. If we approve this, that's $8 million of contracts we're approving, with all the contractors being based here in Fort Wayne, Allen County, other than Automated Logic, about $90,000. So I think I said this once before, somebody can come up with an Automated Logic competitor up here, they might have a great opportunity, but.
Well, and in their defense, they have several people that live in Fort Wayne in the area, so,
Well, that's
because they're
good,
always
too.
doing work up here.
One of your coworkers yelled at me once for even bringing that up because he said, oh, Logic is the best thing out there since sliced bread. But anyway, I just really am proud of this group and your group too, and led by you and Heather Darren of, showing our commitment to the community with $8 million in contracts being approved tonight, potentially, all here to Fort Wayne and Allen County. So thank you for your efforts and work.
Anything else? All right, thank you, Darren. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Now, we will have a facilities update. Darren, once again, will present a facilities department update on the following programs and projects: the 2022 construction recap, the 2023 construction summary, and rising to the challenges of the current construction market.
Good evening, President Duff, members of the board, Dr. Daniel. My pleasure to bring you an update for our facilities. First, we'd like to show you a video that showcases some of the projects we completed this last year. Before I start the presentation, I do want to recognize my staff here tonight. You've seen them before, but they're the reason we're able to bring you these pretty pictures and videos. And thanks to the video team that put this together. It's nice to be able to showcase the work instead of just talk about it sometimes. So we had a lot more video of that we didn't make the clip, but a lot of work happening. So let's see if I can get this started. So first we'll start off with what we're doing this year in 2002, recap, looking ahead in 23. And mainly the reason we want to bring you an update is the rising to the challenges of the current marketplace that we keep talking about this past year and a half. So in 2022, real general level, these are the number of projects we're working on, but just under 73 million. Many of them, as you can see, the green there, are individual ESSER projects that are taking a lot of our time, and thanks to our staff for helping out with that. But something new this year in the blue, we have some grants with the Build, Learn, Grow grant and the STEAM grant, and then our cyclical CPP dollars in the gray, and then our bond projects in orange. Looking in 2023, very similar amount of projects, a little less ESSER projects, but we look to add a few more as we're seeing some savings come back. But again, another $68 million worth of work just for 2023. So the challenges that came with that, of course, this is, I believe, a very telling slide we received from the Zacher Company. Over 1 million square feet of new construction last year in Fort Wayne. Electric Works being almost 600,000 of that. But if you look at the prior 5 to 6 years, we were hovering around 100,000 new square feet. So we were already quadrupling that without Electric Works, and you threw Electric Works on, and they doubled it again and times half. So really the labor force, not only just through attrition, but simply the market. We have stories of painters working 10 hours at Electric Works and then coming in the evenings and working at Arlington, Lincoln, and trying to put another 3 or 4 hours in week after week after week. And we're just burning people out. So that's one of the telling challenges that we have is the labor. Electric Works, looking into next year, there's still a lot of work to happen at Electric Works. It seems like every other week there's something being announced in Allen County with the new construction. So this is not going to go away anytime soon. So we have to take that challenge on head on. Secondly is material lead times. We didn't notice it right away with the pandemic. Some things with container shortages and trucking delays, but pretty much everybody had parts and pieces to put their components together. Then after 9 months, 12 months, we started seeing drastic increase in lead times. And these vary. This looked completely different 3 months ago. So every quarter we kind of look at this. One of the worst things there at the bottom, switchgear and transformers, which is for your electrical main gear. You're looking at 60 weeks out, which is over a year. Rooftop units, we still have some on order, some since last December. So we're looking at probably 16 to 18 months for units to show up for Anthus and Auto Center. And some of the challenges with we were having roofing delays because they couldn't have the adhesives to put down the roofing membranes. Then we started manufacturing the roofing membranes again, but they couldn't have enough plastic buckets to put the membrane in. So it seemed like every other week it's something different. And right now, if you've heard ready mix plants for concrete, they're shutting down 2-3 times a week right now. So that's really putting a pinch on concrete here as well. This is a national chart that shows some of the volatility in the market. The far right there's basically since the pandemic. So huge numbers there, 40, 30, 90% increases. The silver lining to this chart, though, if you look at the first column, the first month percent change over the last 30 days, a lot of negatives there. So we're starting to see things starting to level off and even decrease a bit. We're hoping that continues that trend. That's just another way to look at that graph, but the blue line, you can see obviously right there in 2020, the spike up to around 25%. We're seeing, anywhere, we're guessing 17, 18% overall increase in just material costs. And we're starting to see it flatten out. We're hoping that continues to go down, but at least flatten out. What that meant for last year, for example, we moved these projects to 2023. Simply did not have the interest in the market. Put them out to bid, either one bidder or one day the Kikianga Portage Middle School project bid day, no bids came in. Never had that happen again before. So we took a look at the rest of our projects there, and these are the ones we chose to move into 2023. One of the good things about these, Forest Park and Adams we came today with, and those came in at our estimate. We feel that if we bid them last year, we probably would have paid more last year. So we'll always this is the strategy as well. If we don't have to spend the money, let's let the market tell us, drive us. This is very difficult to read, but Heather put this together with Josh looking at Wayne High School. So just in simplistic terms, the bars, the black bars to the left with the dots on either end, that was the start finish in the schedule that was designed. Because of delays, second one down, for example, you see the purple bar going way, way out. We're still waiting on the office to get completed because we're still waiting on the glass and aluminum storefronts. Can't finish that project until we get that, and then we can open the office. But looking further down in like the B hall there in the gray or the green area, we're ahead of schedule in the B hall, and we're actually going to have the B hall done complete prior to what we had already estimated to be complete, because we're just redirecting our labor, redirecting where we have materials. So it's kind of a project scheduler's nightmare right now in the last couple of years, because we're constantly changing schedules. But
in one of your earlier slides, you identified a wait or lead time of 40 weeks. Is that better or worse today?
It depends. A year ago it was something else that was 40 weeks. Now this last week we're getting delays on stuff that we could get easily the last time, a year ago. So any of these items, like air handlers, for example, typically 14 to 16 weeks would be the longest to receive a chiller or an air handler, and now we're looking at over a year. And that's just because of all the ESSER dollars tied towards HVAC. There's 3 or 4 manufacturers in the states that they're completely full as well.
So on this slide, Darren, how much control do you and your team have over when the work gets done and how it gets done? Or is that basically all the contract?
We work as a team, so they meet every week. I think about every 2 weeks they actually talk more about schedule and what can get pushed forward, what can move back. So Josh has been working with Mr. Hauser and his team. New tech should have been done, it's not done. The office should have been done, it's not done. But so he's just moving people around, but we do have input on it. Yes, if it is negative to the learning environment, then Josh goes in there and says, no, you can't do that. I know you want to, but we can't do it. So we do have control of what they can and cannot do. So one of the points of this too at the end, 2024 is the completion as scheduled. We still feel we can hit 2024 by just moving parts and pieces around, but we can adjust.
Is that the summer of 24?
Fall of 2024.
Okay.
Project scheduled adjustments. These are just a few that I had the guys put together on paper. I won't go through each of them, but just simple things like doors, wood doors, veneer doors. We're still waiting on them. That should have been put in this summer. And pretty much every project, whether it was roofing, whether it was a general contractor project, mechanical project, all of them had their own delays and challenges within them. So these are 4 of the strategies we've been using this last 18 months to combat these challenges. First was the mindful material selection. Best example of this, when we were designing the Abbott classrooms, steel joists were out over a year. So we knew we couldn't use steel joists for our members, so we went with more of standard structural steel, Y-beams and stuff, I-beams. So we kind of have to look at each project just a little differently, constantly talking with our suppliers. CMC is great with this because we'll work there with the design team, with the contractors, trying to figure out what is behind the schedule for materials. The other is early procurement. You typically have never seen us come with a lot of these, hey, we're buying air handlers early, we're buying roofing early, we're doing steel fabrication early packages. So it helps us start to get in queue while we're still finishing the design that's not necessarily tied to that component. Schedule flexibility, when it's not being detrimental to the learning environment. We're allowing contractors to work in non-classroom spaces during the day. We even have buildings open third shift. John's putting in some doors, around the clock. So we're working with our partner Sodexo to have that flexibility. So just looking at all options to get in and do work, and not tying it to, like I said, with the Adams project, saying you have to have it done by next summer because we want that office done by next summer, knowing that the contractors are not going to be able to provide that project. So we had to give them until 2024. And then the last one is just looking at any alternative methods of procurement. We already had a design build this year. We've used CMC quite a bit. That allows us to order early packages. And then we've also used a lot of purchasing cooperatives that already have projects or materials under bid through a cooperative that's actually less than what we could go into the open market. So taking advantage of those cooperatives as well.
By the way, I just read this the other day, I don't know if you heard about this, but you know that the water level in the Mississippi is now so low, especially around Memphis, that they can't get barges through. You know how much stuff is trafficked on the Mississippi?
Yeah, that's just the next week's story for us.
Exactly. I mean, that's just crazy.
With that, I'll take your questions.
How much square footage of space do you and your team manage?
Roughly 5.5 million, about 900 acres.
With respect to future projects beyond 24, how does that internal discussion happen with respect to how much money we think we're going to have available and how we begin to identify needs in buildings?
Yeah, I would like to say we have our strategic capital plan built. Esther kind of sidebarred us a little bit with that. But we would like to look at that 3 to 5 years. We already know the next buildings that aren't included in a current bond that we need to go into. One of the things, we have 2 capital coordinators now, so Jade and John, on a rotation of every 3rd year, they go through a 1/3 of our buildings complete, walk every single sidewalk, open up every door. And so with the challenge that if it's okay right now, will it be okay in 3 years? And if it's not, then we need to address it. If not, then it gets deferred, but at the same time, we're taking notes of that, and we know that it's coming up. So it's a lot of data driven, but we do look at that 3 to 5 years out. And we're always going to have the needs because we're cyclical in nature. Buildings age, just as we do.
So on those 3 and 5 year lists, is there an auditorium penciled in for Memorial Park?
Not currently, no.
Okay. I was reminded recently by something that Julie Hollingsworth wrote that says no individual board member can do anything by himself or herself. So one of my jobs over the next year is going to be to persuade these folks to my left that we need to think about an auditorium for our fine arts middle school. So
Get in line, brother.
I'm just saying in public that that would be awfully nice if our Memorial Park Middle School had an auditorium instead of using their gym to do plays and other performances.
Maybe there would be some naming rights involved.
Sure, Mitch could find somebody that might be able to help us.
That's what I'm saying.
Darren, based on the most recent referendum and our plans and thoughts at that time and where we're at today, how's that going to shake out, do you think? Being able to accomplish all the projects we want, primarily Wayne, Miami, and Blackhawk?
Yeah, it's going to be extremely challenging. Fortunately, we've been able to use some ESSER dollars for some of the HVAC work that was happening, or window projects. But still, if we're looking at 18 to 20% increase in materials, all of the labor has gone up because obviously they're in demand, so that doesn't equate to that amount that we took from ESSER. So unfortunately, when we're sitting at the design table with our principals, we're having to scale things back a little bit, knowing that we're likely not going to have a large savings like we did at the end of Repair 1 and Repair 2.
Okay. With that being said, we're responsible to the constituents of our districts. What would you say to somebody who, because you're someone who eats, sleeps, and breathes this every day, if someone says you're not fiscally responsible, you're not coming in at budget or below, those type of conversations?
Data. We just have to show them the data, and that's what Heather did a great job working with our partners here to come up with some good slides on the national and regional outlook, and we're just not alone. I would imagine other districts are seeing 30% if they're not well managed. So I still think if we're in that 15 to 20%, we're managing our funds correctly. Again, I've challenged, we always look at different material selections too, and is there something else we can do differently to make it a little more economical, knowing that end day is coming. Trust me, we know.
Do you mind introducing your team that's here?
Sure. Heather, you want to stand up and just introduce yourself real quick? Title?
Heather Krebs, Coordinator of Program Controls.
Josh Summers, Coordinator of Capital Projects.
John Hudson, Coordinator of Capital Projects.
Zach Evans, Coordinator of Capital Projects.
Travis Searles, Coordinator of Capital Projects.
Jade Steffen, Coordinator of Capital Projects. Jim Cotter, Energy Management Coordinator.
Thank you.
Kevin.
Yeah, and Kevin Grady, he's on medical leave, but he'll be back hopefully in a month. He's also a capital coordinator.
I know in previous facility updates, you've given savings in terms of energy efficiency. Are you still tracking that, and are we still making headway on being a more efficient district?
Yeah, we're still tracking, whereas a district-wide, so not individual projects. But Jim Cotter, for example, he's part of the team because he sits in most of our design meetings as well, and he's always that guy on my shoulder saying, hey, you thinking about this? Because, it's a lot of times engineers and architects, they're not necessarily thinking about energy. And then Jim also works with our team on validating for rebates, chasing after any rebates. That's what he's looking at all the time, is what's out there. And that's a challenge on its own too, because they change the rules about every 6 months. And he also works with me on the ESSER projects as well, verifying the air quality and things like that.
And in that vein, I presume you guys looked at other alternatives for like solar or wind or anything of that nature at the different projects?
We have, and the most recent one actually, and we'll probably have a little more discussion with it, but we've preliminarily, we've been told it's not going to work. Geothermal has now, in the last couple of months, the federal government, instead of having 10%, it's 30%, and they included municipalities and governments in that rebate, but it would just be a check to us. And then because it's domestically produced here at Water Furnace in Fort Wayne, it's another 10% kicker, so we could get 40% back. The biggest problem with geothermal is we just don't have a large mass of water to pull the heat from and cool from. But we are constantly kind of looking at those other avenues too to see if it makes sense.
One last thing I'll say, because I've shared this with Darren and Heather at various times, but when I've talked to construction people, architect people, anybody involved in this process, and I want to say this to your team more so than you and Heather, Darren, but they think you guys do a phenomenal job, and they put us up against everybody. I mean, I've not heard anybody say, oh, this district is pretty close to you, but no. They say our district blows people away in working with and servicing with, again, those contractors, the architects, and those folks. And it seems like a simple thing, but I'm sure it's a huge challenge of just getting all the data, the buildings and stuff, into one central location where everybody can access it and look at it. So kudos to your team for taking that large effort. I'm sure it was not easy, and making that available. And I think that helps create a better working environment and engagement with our vendors. So thanks. Thanks to you guys. And Gal.
I'd also like to add, I'd like to thank you as well because I recently had a discussion with Darren, but my discussion stemmed from a couple school teachers in other districts that are around other states, which similar in size to ours, and the work that we do in our schools based on the average age of our schools is really pretty incredible. And the facilities that our children go to and how we have kept them up, I'm very proud to say, and see them, walk through and see them. I hear some terrible, terrible things from a few of my friends who are in other, like I said, districts that are our size in other states that do not have air conditioning, do not have ceiling. I mean, they're putting 5, 6 fans in a classroom, overloading their circuits where it's smoking and other things, and trying to keep their windows open just to keep their kids in the classroom and able to be educated in the classroom and be able to teach. And by going around and visiting our schools, I'm proud of you, Darren, and your team for what they do on a daily basis to keep our schools in the condition that they are, specifically the age that they are. So I want to thank you and thank everyone who supports our referendums to keep those schools as they are. I think we should be very proud, and we'd be very shocked if we went to other districts and looked around at their schools. So thank you.
Yeah, and thank you for being flexible in this post-COVID craziness. So it sounds even more challenging than it's ever been, so we appreciate that.
And by the way, the Northrop parking lot is awesome. The traffic calming stuff in there, you know, it's not a racetrack after ball games and school anymore, so that's nice. When is the whole new entrance thing supposed to be done?
Like in a month, right?
Really? I mean, it looks pretty close, but...
Yeah. Told me like end of November or maybe spring if there was one thing.
Our part's complete.
Yeah.
As long as you've left before the end of the fourth quarter, you're okay.
Yeah, exactly. And by the way, also, since Renee Sloan from Sodexo is here, also, thank you to you and your team for, you know, being involved in the whole cleanup that goes along with a building that's under construction, but still you're having school every day. So thanks to you and your staff too.
All right. Well, thanks again.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I believe we are ready for board member comments.
Well, I had a makeup day on Principal for a Day. I was not able to join everybody on the official day, but I spent 3 hours with Brad Crozier at Memorial Park on Friday and had a great visit. And it was it's a good school that's doing a lot of stuff, so I just appreciated the time being with him and in the classrooms and taking a look at everything that's happening at his school.
I spent my Principal for a Day with J.R. Ankerbrook at Lincoln, so just wanted to thank not only J.R. but staff and the students for welcoming me. J.R. gave me his little Bible that he gives to all of his staff. It's called Love Your People. That's kind of his motto. And I'll just read the back of it. The back cover says, "We're here to make good things happen for other people." And that kind of goes right along with your, you know, culture wins mantra, Dr. Daniel. So, and the lunch, by the way, was, which you missed, from our culinary arts students. That was awesome. And that makes me also want to mention that the Bar Street Bistro is open for lunch, I think Tuesday, Wednesdays, Thursdays. Is that right? Is that right? 11:30 to 1:30, maybe something like that?
Yeah.
Okay. So, and if they're serving that chocolate mousse, I'm going to be there. That was good. I also wanted to mention that today the NAEP scores came out. That's kind of referred to as the nation's report card. They test students every 2 years, but did not do it in 2021 because of the pandemic. So there's a 3-year gap this time from 2019 to 2022. So that happened last spring. Pretty much as expected, the pandemic showed, and I'll just mention that they test a variety of students from every state, suburban, rural, urban. They test 4th grade reading and math and 8th grade reading and math. And so every state, either a few states held steady, but the majority of states, of course, declined in all areas. So that was not a big surprise. And of course, most states are doing what we're doing, which is, putting in programs, and now we have, I think Indiana has a 4th and 5th grade tutoring program that, has that been rolled out yet, or soon to be rolled out?
Soon to be rolled out.
Soon to be? Yeah. Okay. So, and other states are doing things to try to catch kids up. The most interesting thing to me is, I remember back around 2015 when the 2015 test results came out, Indiana was, patting themselves on the back because we had increased and were well above the national average. But what's happened since 2015 is Indiana has steadily started to drop. So I think some people in Indiana, education policymakers, need to really take a look at that data since 2015, because something is happening. And it needs, there needs to be some investigation of it. We've lost almost half of the advantage that we had over the U.S. national average since 2015. So just wanted to mention that.
Thank you, Julie.
Sorry, real quick. So 2015 was when you saw the peak and the decline.
2015 was the peak of a pretty steady incline.
And this
But
is taking
since around 2015, Indiana scores across the board, all 4 areas have gone down.
And this is taking a test for 4th and 8th graders. So policies that began in May 2011. Does that sound about? I mean,
I don't know.
It sure does.
does that sound?
I don't know.
Okay.
But there's been a lot of policies enacted since, you're right, 2011.
Gotcha. I'll shut up.
I'll leave that for others to investigate.
I also was privileged to be principal of the day at Brentwood, which is why I'm wearing their Brentwood Bears today. Go Bears.
Go Bears.
Go Bears. Principal Matthew Megan was my tour guide for the day, I would call him. It was a very interesting day at Brentwood because it was also JA in a day. And since we have 52 schools and you're trying to get them all, he had no idea but I thought it was really interesting because that also allowed me a little more access with Principal Megan and his teachers, because they did have an extra community member in our school. And what I was excited to see was those community members in our school. I highly encourage anyone who would like to get in to see our schools to volunteer to be a representative for JA. They are in all of our elementary schools for the day, and it's exciting to see those kids, learning some entrepreneurship or money skills or other things. And what's more exciting is seeing our community members out there with those students and getting to enjoy the things that we sometimes have the privilege of going behind the scenes and seeing, but they don't. So there are many ways other than being a JA or a principal for the day to get into your schools, and I highly encourage you to do that. But one thing that stayed with me through the day was the morning announcements for Brentwood. And as the hustle and bustle goes through the school day in the morning with the attendance and some arrival time and other things, they have developed a school mantra, per se, and the word that they use, and they say it in many different sentences, but the word that they use is, I am someone. And I thought that that was a very special word for the children to hear every day, that I am someone, I mean something to somebody else, I do something for somebody else, I am special, basically is what I took from that. And the kids really got to get into it. They stand in the, they say it, they repeat it. The principal says something, then they repeat it. And at the end, I think that everybody feels validated. And they also do something very special that every day the teacher hands out these, I forget what they're called, but they get tokens every day. A teacher can nominate their child or the student in the classroom for doing something special, and the principal reads it every day. So there was a whole long list of things that the children did. I'm like, is this a weekly thing? And he's like, no, it's daily. So they read every day what Julie Hollinsworth was a special helper today, or Maria Norman did excellent in her math skills or something. I don't know. But it was a whole long list, and I thought it was very special that each of those children are being recognized every day. And it's not just weekly, it's every day. And so that to me kind of stood out, and I was happy to be a part of it for that day and see what's exciting and new in our schools. So let's go Bears.
I have no comment.
I too had the honor of going to Price Elementary after a year break last year because I thought I had COVID, but I was sick. I started out that morning by catching up with Rhiannon Grover, who reminded me that she was my eldest daughter's pre-K teacher when they were 3 and 4 years old at our church at Messiah Lutheran Church. So that was neat to see her kind of reconnect and catch up with her on what she's done and what my girls have done. And it was neat to hear her go from a part-time paid preschool teacher to now she's assistant principal at Price, and much of that growth has taken place in Fort Wayne Community Schools, demonstrating that she had an opportunity given here to become a teacher, and she's worked her way up to becoming an assistant principal. Ben Hartman was great. They too did something about reading about the kids' achievements that the teachers nominated. The other, on a sad note, but I think important to share, was as we were going through the day, one of their teachers got a call that her father-in-law, an ambulance was showing up to his house. And this teacher had lost her father a week before. And just in about an hour when we got that notice, and she's going to keep going through the day, within an hour later, he passed away. And so I got to watch Ms. Grover, Mr. Hartman, and their staff kind of coordinate and work through that problem to diminish the effect it would have on these 25 third graders, I think it was, and how best to, keep them engaged and keep them going on that day of learning, and probably for the remainder of the week that she was going to be missing because of a death in her family. So while it was very sad for that teacher and that school family, I was really proud to see how they worked around that issue and tackled it head on. And at every point in time of the discussion was, what are we doing best for our kids, for these kids in particular? So I appreciate that opportunity with Mr. Hartman and Ms. Grover and some of their staff at Price.
Thank you. Dr. Daniel?
Want to thank our sponsors who helped with blessings in the backpack, so Sodexo being here tonight, as well as many of our board members who attended that evening. Wonderful evenings for such a great cause. I also would like to thank Junior Achievement, specifically some of our partners who have come alongside 3DE, and in particular, right now we have Franken Electric at Snyder, and we have SDI that's come alongside Northside. And what I'm hearing is very similar to what you heard from Riley Johnson, which is what you hear from New Tech, which is what you hear now from these partners. And they're saying, I can't believe how much I've benefited by being with these kids. Far more than probably the benefit of what the kids have received. So back to the volunteerism phenomenon, definitely we have places where you can engage. And it makes a world of a difference for our students. And in a very short amount of time, because what are we?
50 days in, Riley said.
Yeah, 50 days in. We are seeing maturation, we're seeing growth of students being able to present, and even the ones who haven't yet been able to do so, it's just a matter of time. So again, we do look forward to seeing this continuing to happen, and certainly in these two high schools, and then in 2 years, we'll start to roll out the next group. So thank you.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Daniel. I also had my principal for a day visit at Shawnee Middle School with David Tiarina, and he had been gone the week prior, so I got to kind of sit in on a meeting he had with his staff just to catch him up, and you know, I was very impressed that, you know, everything ran smoothly without his being there, and that just speaks volumes of the leadership in that building. The other thing that impressed me most was he spoke Spanish to the students in the hallway, because obviously he's fluent in Spanish, and in all my years being in education, I've never seen a principal speak to a student in their native language. So that was really impressive to get to see that and observe that, and you know, I'm sure it really means a lot to those kids. My husband was a speaker for the career day at Lakeside. I was asked to be a speaker, and I didn't think that I could actually speak in my board position. I didn't think about that, but you know, if they don't want to learn about being a teacher because they see that every day, I'm sure they could figure that one out. So I volunteered my husband because he's an engineer and in sales, and so he really enjoyed that day, and I got to give a kudos to Gina Snyder, the counselor there, because coordinating those, I think they had like 75 speakers or people come in, and they paired them up in different classrooms and rotated the kids. They got to maybe speak for 20, 25 minutes, something like that, to each group. So that's a lot logistically to do and to get all those volunteers in. So obviously she did a great job with that. And I've taught my husband well, because when he was talking to his kids about, you know, getting experience and what you're interested in, he told them all that you need to go to the Anthus Career Center and experience some of those programs there. So I don't know if I necessarily taught him well, but you know, my son, as I've spoke many times, had a great experience at Anthus, and that really set him on his career path. And now he's at Rose-Hulman studying computer science, because he was at the I don't guess it was a computer programming class there. So it can do wonders for kids. And like your daughter, Noah, you know, the same with Anthus. They do something different like that, they get so much more excited about school, because it's not just sitting there doing the same thing in, you know, our class day after day after day. So those programs do wonders for our kids. So that is it. Is there a motion on the floor?
Move it close.
Second.
Thank you, Noah. Thank you, Steve. All in favor?
Aye.
First, your first name and your last name. And do I spell that thing I would? How long have you been the director of facilities? Talk to me about the presentation tonight. If you